Good afternoon, everybody. I'm your host, Crystal. This is another edition of the 9 o'clock Meltdown, and I have Chris Linder in the studio with me this afternoon. Hello, sir.
Crystal, thanks for having me.
Yes, of course. And now you're in charge of Linder Productions. What is that about? When did you come up with this?
Sure, yeah. So it's actually at Linder Media, Linder Productions. But yeah, Linder Media is the name. And it's sort of the product of just years of being a hobbyist with media production and then going to school and kind of studying certain things and then deciding that I wanted to break into the local marketplace and begin to offer media production services to local businesses, to musicians, to basically anybody that needs video work, and it's been a blast.
Yeah.
So a lot of crazy learning experiences, as I'm sure every single person ever would agree happens when you're doing your first year of your business. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You kind of know what you think you're doing, and then a million, things happen that you weren't expecting, and you kind of have to learn how to respond to everything and just continue to move forward. So right now, what that looks like for Linder Media is doing a lot of promo videos that go on the internet, doing some commercials that go on television, and then doing more like 5-minute documentary pieces that maybe a company wants to have produced on what they're doing and to be shown internally. Mm-hmm. To investor meetings or, to little film festivals or whatever. So it's really all over the place.
Mm-hmm. All right. Excellent. And now you and we actually had a couple classes together with Brent Nottbaum when we were both studying videography here.
Yep, that's right.
I'm kind of surprised at how many people don't know that that's a word. And then I have to explain it. It's kind of like photography, but in video. So
that's right.
You and I we went to school together. Well, we've also worked at KUWS, not together, of course, but in tandem. So
yep.
You know your way around the studio, as do I.
That's right, yeah. It's always nice being back here.
Exactly. I love these brand new squishy walls that they have.
The audio treatment in these rooms is absolutely fantastic. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could hear a pin drop.
You can. However, you can also hear a pin drop in Studio A, too, because they didn't do the ceilings.
Okay. Nice.
Yep. Exactly. So now with that being said, with a little background into what you're doing, you're also working with Bob Monahan in his basement studio. Now, that used to be kind of Chaperone Records. They're no longer really doing much down in that studio space, so it's kind of been taken over by Solstice Studios?
Yep. So Solace Studios.
Solace.
And Solace, yeah. And Solace is operated by Solomon Witherspoon, super cool guy. Mm-hmm. Just really been blessed to get to meet him and start working with him over the course of the summer. And I met Solo and Bob and the crew this summer on a project where I was called in as a videographer for a project, and the studio just happened to be the location. Mm-hmm. And we're all working together in the same room, and when the job was done, we ended up talking. A few weeks later, I kind of came in to do a few projects and whatnot, and a month later, they asked me, would you like to just be here? Mm-hmm. So that's been great. Solace Studios, yeah, it's a lot of people are saying it's a hip-hop label. Well, we put out a hip-hop album with a bunch of the studio artists recently called Genesis, mm-hmm. And that's been a lot of fun. But we're not limited to that. Really, we're open to working with any artist to any capacity, so long as both parties feel that the space and the tools that we have to provide are suitable and appropriate for whatever it is that they're trying to achieve. Mm-hmm. In other words, if a 12-piece orchestra or whatever, right, wants to come down and record, don't really have the space for that. Hip-hop, great. It's one person on a microphone and a track. Mm-hmm. What about like a 3-piece rock band? Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of really cool like nooks and crannies downstairs as well. So if you wanted to get really unconventional, why not take the drum kit and put it out in the lobby or in the VIP room to get the echo off the walls or something like that? There's so many cool things that we can do down there. So,
Right, right. And for those of you who haven't been in the basement of the Red Herring, now this is where everything's located, is the Red Herring. There is a mini stage down there with lights and things like that, and then they have a mini bar down there as well. And then you go up a pair of stairs into the VIP room or the green room. I have never been back there, but I've heard really cool things. A few years ago, Aaron Carter graced his presence at the Red Herring,
That's
and
right.
a number of friends of mine snuck back into the VIP room and had to be rescued by an older sibling. So apparently Aaron Carter still has it. So
Yeah, all right.
applause, I guess. I don't know.
That's
I was
cool.
never a huge fan. So
I don't listen to him personally, but all the respect and love in the world, you know. Absolutely.
right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah, actually the VIP room. I don't know what it was like downstairs during that show because I wasn't around then. But actually, we recently sort of did not remodeling, but just we reorganized the entire room. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So when you walk down there, walk into the green room, you immediately get hit with this there's like a bar down there and really cool lighting. There's couches and everything's just really it's kind of spruced up a little bit. You know?
All right.
Yeah,
All right.
it's
Excellent.
like oh cool, like I get to hang down here tonight. All right, so. And that's kind of the experience that we wanted to create an opportunity for, patrons to and fans too, if they want to meet the band or whatever. If they pay for like the VIP pass.
Okay.
It's an opportunity for them to, just kind of be down there and then also get to meet with the bands and everything. And it's also a really cool way to kind of just control what's going on a little bit more. You know what I mean? Because
Yes.
you don't want people. Whatever, any establishment is not going to want people running up and down and all this and whatever. And it's just our way of saying, here's how we are, sectioning this part of the establishment off, as opposed, you know what I mean? Like if you're upstairs or you're down here, that's two separate.
Right,
you know what I mean?
right.
So yeah, so that's been good.
Yeah.
That's been working out.
All right.
Yeah.
Excellent. And now I know, and I think people in the larger community know, that Bob has recently taken on a hostel next to the Red Herring. So, and I know you've done some work with that as well. Can you speak to that in any capacity, or is it still kind of hush-hush?
Oh, I mean, things are coming together. I guess, there's really nothing official yet, other than maybe what they would have put up on their Facebook page. I guess, I can say this, though, my role in all of that, really, I've just been happy to help, with my time here and there, and, anything that I can do to help it come together, which hasn't been like a whole lot, but yeah, it's just been really cool to hang out and, just everybody coming together and just making it happen. Like a few days ago, we had a furniture party, right? Like for real, we all got together and we had pizza and we were putting together furniture for hours. It was a blast.
Yep.
And
I've had furniture parties in the past. When the North Shore was about to open its doors, they ordered a bunch of stuff. So a number of us got up real early in the morning and just started hacking at the plastic that it came wrapped in and
okay,
put them together. And
okay,
yeah,
all right, yeah,
had coffee. And,
that sounds kind of like what we did.
Yeah,
for real.
All right.
Yeah, and then like the mattresses too. That's another one. Like
Yeah.
you go to cut the plastic open, and then boom, it just springs open on you. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can hear the excitement in my voice over those. So getting back into the record label that's running downstairs, now who have you worked with in the past besides some hip-hop artists?
Well, the big name in the area that we've worked with recently is Whiskey Trail.
Okay.
We had a blast recording a single for them, and we're doing a music video for them coming up pretty soon. That was really kind of a cool opportunity as well for us to, after having just done a lot of hip-hop and R&B, to then hear something that is more of a quiet recording.
Okay.
It's not 808s and drum beats and synths and all that stuff. It's like an acoustic guitar and two singers, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And on a recording like that, if the room doesn't sound right or something's off, you're going to hear it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I mean, I wasn't engineering it. I was observing
Mm-hmm.
while it was being tracked out and everything, but I was just blown away. They sounded really great. They did really, they did a fantastic job, and we had a lot of fun working with them, and it was good. So as far as like, you know, where that music is, I think that, you know, that's on them though.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing about being a studio. People will come in and record stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's gone, and you're like, oh, I wonder, you know, if I'm ever gonna hear this track somewhere, you know what I mean? And then maybe a year later, it'll pop up on iTunes, and you're like, oh, I did this and that on that one song. You know what I mean? Like, but the studio as a service for an artist does not have that sort of control over distribution and things like that. I mean, we can do that as well, but you know, that's a whole different conversation. So,
all right, then we won't get into that then.
We can have that conversation too. It's just that
So is it more artist affiliated than record label affiliated? Let's simplify it.
it's okay. So it's both. There's two separate aspects to it.
Mm-hmm.
There is the studio service.
Mm-hmm.
The studio service is we will record, mix, and master your music, and then we'll give it to you. Okay?
Okay.
You know what
All
I mean?
right. Mm-hmm.
The record label side is we have a distribution deal,
Mm-hmm.
and we will sign a contract with you saying that we share the rights of this music, and then we will sell it, and you will get a percentage of the royalties.
Mm-hmm.
So two completely different things, but if somebody wants to come in, do a track, and then we're like, hey, you know, like we're interested in doing distribution for you. What do you think? It is possible that somebody could come in, record a song, get it mixed, mastered, and then boom, put straight onto iTunes or Spotify.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You know what I mean? Like that's definitely a possibility.
Yeah, very cool, Chris. Now, if an artist is interested in going that route with you, whether to just use a studio or do the distribution or both, how can they do that?
Well, so, you know, we want everything to start with a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody that's interested in working with the studio, just contact us. Contact me. Again, my name's Chris Linder. You can find me on Facebook. Or you can email me at chris@lindermedia.co. Contact me or contact Solomon Witherspoon and schedule a time.
Mm-hmm.
Schedule a time to come to the studio. Let's talk about what you're interested in. We'll tell you what we have to offer, whatever, and just go from there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like everything starts with a convo. And that's where we can work out all the particulars too.
Mm-hmm.
Things like that can get really complicated if you try to like, you know, oh, I want to do a 10-track album with this, and this. How much is it going to cost? You know, and that's what everybody wants to know. Well, I want to do this, and how much is it going to cost? Can we make that cheaper?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean, or whatever. And it's like, honestly, it's hard to. You can't even know because every project is different.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's definitely an opportunity and a service for, I mean, I say anybody, but really though, I think the types of people that are going to really enjoy working with us at Solace Studios are going to be the artists who like to work more on like that family vibe, you know, where you're kind of just like feeling it. It's more of like that intuition-driven kind of a thing. If you're the type of person that wants to come in with like a 10-point plan for exactly how everything's going to go down and this and that and everything else, then we're not the right studio for you. And to be honest, I don't know if there's a studio for you because I don't know if that's how recording music works. But, and I say that with love and respect, but yeah, for anybody that just wants to come in and, you know, help their dreams come together with music, yeah, contact us and let's just have a convo, come down, check out the space, and we can go from there.
Mm-hmm. All right, excellent. Chris is in the studio with me. This is another edition of the 9 o'clock Meltdown here on 91.3 KUWS right here in Superior. And now, Chris, I understand, going with the flow and being able to kind of roll with the punches and things like that. You and I worked on a top secret project not too long ago with the wonderful Tom Livingston, who's been in the industry for the past, 35, 40 years. And he's got it down to a science.
Right.
But he also can go with the flow and bring the talent that we were working with at the time, bring out their different kind of sides of their personalities and things like that. You were videographer on it, and I was kind of like the point person, and mainly I went, do whatever. That's how easygoing I am. And now you have quite a bit of your own equipment, and I've seen your home studio too. You got kind of like a little record thing going on down in your basement. Some foam.
Oh yeah.
Foam going on
Sure.
and things like that. And you're extremely talented in that regard. I mean, I was blown away when I saw your home studio.
Thank you, Crystal.
I'm like, oh man, this makes me feel cheap. Me with just 2 mic cameras and it works.
Thank you. I'm sitting here like smiling and saying like, thank you for saying all these nice things. I really appreciate you.
Of course. And I appreciate you as well. Now to get into the money side of things. I mean, not necessarily the money side of things, but what you actually need to launch these projects off. Now, I know you shoot with a number of different things and a number of different high quality things as well. Was that a trial and error to try to find what fits and works for you? I know it's been for me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely so. I have to figure out how to explain this in a way that people who haven't been searching through product catalogs for the last 5 years of their life are going to understand. Because if I said, first I was using a T3i and then I switched over to an A7S, I feel like most people are going to not really know what that means. You know what I mean?
I can
and
explain.
I don't blame them.
Here, why don't we do like the Geico commercials? You talk and then I'll simplify it.
Oh my goodness.
All right, so those were 2 different cameras. One was a lesser version, and then he upped himself to a nice version.
Yeah, and then I had a kit lens, but I decided, you know what, I think I want something a little heavier, so I switched over to a 24 to 72.8.
Kit lenses are the lenses that just come with the camera, and the other lenses you have to buy separately that can cost anywhere from $100 if you find them on eBay to about $1,000. So,
yeah,
that cash should explain itself.
Absolutely.
All right.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's super funny. So as far as that goes, and just kind of figuring out gear and everything, that's really interesting. And I've seen some of my friends be a little bit, and I say this with respect, be a little bit naive.
Okay. In
sort of just thinking, I'm going to just buy this camera and it's just going to be great and everything's just going to work great. And it's, so there are a lot of different factors that come into play to make a video look, and I'm doing quote fingers now, professional. Because what does that even mean?
Right.
But though, when you watch a professional movie, if you go to the theater or whatever, if you go to the store and just pick a random DVD off the shelf, there's a certain quality to the image that makes it feel right. And it's because over, the last 100 years, since cameras were designed and everything, and things were a little bit weird at first, but then they started to fall into sort of these conventions of we're going to set the gear up a certain way for specific reasons. And now at this point, some of the reasons that people did things 50 years ago are actually not relevant anymore because digital has changed certain limitations and stuff. However, though, people will still put the digital cameras in those settings that aren't needed, but they'll do it anyway because it's what everybody's used to seeing. Maybe if you turn a knob this way or that way, the picture will start to look a little bit more blurry when things are moving fast. Or if you lock it down, then even if somebody's running 100 miles an hour, they're not going to be blurry at all. And so anyway, not to get too much into it, but Yeah, absolutely. A lot of trial and error and just trying all these different things and playing with the settings. Also realizing that a lot of gear out there, maybe it works for someone else, but it just doesn't work for me. So I've gone through a lot of different lenses, so many different lenses, and then ended up selling most of them on eBay. And because I found the ones that I liked, and what I have now is probably what I will continue to use for the next like 5 to 10 years. I don't have any reason to buy more glass right now. Same with the cameras too. Like, newer versions of my camera have come out. I just don't care. I really don't. Some people are like, oh, I got to get the latest version. Okay, that's fair, but why? And they can't tell you. I'm looking at the new versions and like the settings and all that stuff. I'm like, these new features, I wouldn't even use them anyway.
Right.
You know what I mean? But just being able to know that and being in tune with your gear is very helpful. And it all comes into play then when you have a client who wants something to look a certain way, and they're like, oh, I want it to have this feel or this vibe or whatever. And then you're like, oh, okay. Yeah, I can do that. And you just know. You know what I mean? Like the camera, all that stuff. The settings can be oftentimes on the technical side what makes a very strong artistic impression on the video. So
Right. And I'm more in the photography side of things, and I can completely attest to everything that you've said. It's about knowing your equipment and knowing what it can do. And, for me, I had a photography guru for a while. And at the time, I just couldn't afford those giant lenses and things like that, the really nice $1,000 stuff. And I just looked at him one day and I'm like, man, if I could afford this lens, I feel my work could be so much better. And he looked at me, he's like, no, Crystal, if the kit lens and your camera works for you and you get what you want out of it, there's no reason to change. So needless to say, I've kind of taken that to heart, and yeah, it still works for what I do. I get great shots, and it can do what I need it to. Now, with that being said, do I have to, adjust myself sometimes to maybe get the right angle on the light and, the sunshine and things like that? Oh, definitely. But if you have equipment that works for you and you know what you can get out of it and you can satisfy that client, by all means, stay with it. You don't need the latest and greatest. Like you said, half those buttons and knobs that they put on there, I'm not going to use them anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, my goodness. Oh, hey, here's a funny story. So I had this lens. In order for it's $2,000 lens, okay?
All right.
So I bought the lens from Best Buy, and when I bought this lens, this was the lens that once I got this, I realized I don't need anything else. I don't need any other of my lenses. I can sell them now that I have this. I was going through like buying a new lens every month or two, and then I got this, and I'm like, oh.
Sounds like me with cell phones for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I went through Best Buy, got it, Geek Squad protection on it, and then 3 weeks before the warranty was up, the lens broke. You know what I mean?
Did you drop it?
No, it just quit working. The motor in it went.
What?
Yeah. So I brought it back there, and they sent it in, and then they sent it back, and they said, yeah, we can't fix it, so we're going to give you credit, Best Buy in-store credit. But here's the thing, though. We don't actually carry this lens anymore, and we can't get it for you.
No.
And I'm like, yeah, but I need that lens, though. And they're like, well, yeah. So I discovered that Amazon will actually let you trade in gift cards. So I traded in my Best Buy credit, to Amazon.
Yeah.
I got most of it back. They kept a little bit, which is, just business, whatever. And then I found a slightly older version of the same lens for like a third of the price.
Hey.
So now, yeah, it's so weird how that worked out. You know what I mean? Like, just because it's like, I never thought that, so now I have like a bunch of Amazon credit. And I'm like, okay, I need to be very responsible with this financial scenario. This is super weird. And this normally would never happen, but it did. So now I just have to figure out what to do. And so I decided that I'm just going to buy all of my hygiene items on Amazon and just until the credit's gone.
Yeah.
You know,
Buy your kids stuff too. Yeah.
that's right. Absolutely. So we're talking like toothpaste, you know what I mean? And like soap and detergent and everything.
Yep.
That'll just be, that's just what it is.
All right. There you go. Hey, maybe you can buy him like a little, a toy or something.
But, but like, yeah, but like, exactly. And they love that. But like the thing is though, you know, the lens that I got, it's basically the same thing. You know, kind of going back to my previous point, like
right.
I can't even tell the difference.
Nice.
You know what I mean? And
That's
so,
awesome.
you know, yeah, some people, especially like I want to say like younger people can easily get tricked into thinking that they need to spend a ton of money on their gear. They really don't.
Right. But that does go back to the point of find something that works for you.
Yep.
And, you know, even if it's not the latest and greatest, that's okay too. You know?
Absolutely.
So here's a funny story for you and my adventure in finding things to work for me.
Yeah.
So actually I was still here going to school. And, you know, here at UWS, they have like the expensive gear, cameras, things like that you can rent out. So for whatever reason, I was paranoid about renting out those cameras and never really wanted to do it. So I went to Best Buy. Granted, this is back in 2010, so 8 years ago, almost 9 years ago. So
was that before they had the French CEO?
Probably.
They used to suck really bad. Can I say that on the radio?
Yes.
That's not bad, right? Yeah, they used to be terrible. No, I mean like, and then they got this new CEO and they're like, oh man, we're doing terrible. And then he implemented a bunch of new practices and now like Best Buy is doing like awesome.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
So anyway, I went there and actually I have two funny stories for you. So I went there and I kept asking the guy, I'm like, okay, I need a camera that will shoot in HD. Now, HD wasn't a huge thing yet. Like it was either standard or you could pay an extra $200 and get HD. I said I want it to shoot in HD and I want it to also shoot in low light. So the guy convinces me and sells me a $500 dinky handheld camera that somebody would use for their kid's birthday. Doesn't have the stereo, and I'm using quotation marks here, stereo inputs. Yes. Can it shoot in low light? Yeah. 16 megapixels tops, which does not cut it when you're trying to make a movie. So I bought this thing, thought it was great, brought it into class. I got laughed out of the studio downstairs because I decided to purchase a dinky-ass camera.
Oh.
And I just swore. Actually,
Okay.
no, I think you can say that on air.
Yeah.
There are 7 deadly words, and I don't think that's one of
No,
them.
I think you're fine.
I hope so.
Yeah. Or you
Although,
could, edit it out.
Yes.
Cut it out. Slice it out.
Edit.
Yeah.
Edit. Yep. So that was one of my adventures.
Okay.
And then I really kind of started honing in on research and, you
Yeah.
know, what works for what. And I found the Canon Rebel, and I've stuck with that ever since.
That's really cool. Yeah, I had one. I actually just sold it. But yeah, my Canon never let me down.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah. 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 I'm just thinking about all those good times I had with it. One thing about Canon too is they're known for having probably the better color tones for skin tones. You know, Sony, if your light's a little bit weird, your skin tones can start to look a little green or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, and even after you're white balanced is what I'm talking about. You know, so yeah, no, Canon's great. Love them.
Yeah, I like them too. I'm a Canon, Mac, Apple kind of person.
Okay.
And my significant other, Joseph, is an Android, Sony kind of person.
Okay.
So it's a little clashy at times. He's like, why do you use Mac? Why? You can just, use a Dell. And I'm like, Dell gets viruses, Macs don't. And he's like, yeah, but, you can just have all these extra things on your Dell and goes from there.
That's interesting. I haven't had virus problems in years, actually.
Nice.
It's really weird because I remember, back in the day, it was like you can't turn your computer on without, like your browser
malware
freaking out at you.
Mm-hmm.
But now I don't know. It just kind of seems like things are a little bit better because I've been straight PC, all the way.
Oh, right on.
Yeah. So I can relate to the frustration, but haven't really seen that in the last few years as being an issue. I don't know why. Maybe people are just getting better at controlling things, but
yeah, who knows? Or the virus malware Diddy has worn out.
Yeah,
it's worn off the planet.
Well, one of the reasons I like PC better than Mac is that you can. For somebody who doesn't really know what they're doing, they can still go into the settings and change things. You have a little bit more control over all of your software.
Okay.
But then, obviously Mac is trying to create that seamless, user experience.
Right.
And that can be kind of nice too.
That's what I like about the Mac. Everything just kind of, it talks to itself and, you can drag and drop and it goes.
Oh, yeah.
You don't really have to do a right click and things like that, where Dells are you need to tell the machine what to do. Mac is a one up on that. You just click and drag.
Yeah, the thing is, though, every time I try to video edit on a Mac, I want to take the keyboard and smash it through the computer screen. Because, for real, the hotkeys, I'm so used to I know my shortcuts and everything like that. And then I go to do it. And one thing is something else now, and everything's different. I'm like, I can't do this. Or the new mice, they look like a little bar of soap.
Oh, yeah.
If you take a bar of soap and you leave it in the shower for a month and it gets super thin, it's gonna break. That is literally what you have to hold on to. And I can't grab it without my hand cramping up because it's what is this even? I don't know. I think when Steve Jobs died, they made a lot of. They made a lot of really bad mistakes with their computers.
Oh.
And now they look like trash cans with little dinky little mice, but they run amazing though. So if you can deal with a few minor frustrations, they're actually really great machines, and no hate.
0.1 for Apple. Honestly, though, I think they've put a lot more effort into their iPhones than they have their computers. Just kind of seeing what they've come out with in the last 3 years. I mean, the iPhone, what number is it on? 11? I don't know. I have an 8 Plus, and it works pretty darn well, but I just couldn't get rid of the button on the bottom.
Yeah, and as far as that with the cameras and everything, I know sometimes people are like, man, why are phones so expensive?
Because everything in one little bar.
Well, yeah, exactly, and the camera too. I have a Galaxy S8 or 9 or something. I think it's a 9. I can shoot 4K UHD. I can shoot raw photographs. All of these things that are normally features that you don't even get on very expensive, just actual cameras, not a phone, just a camera. And there's features on my camera phone that can, definitely outdo actual photography cameras. Now, you're not going to get around the fact that the lens on this is kind of tiny and terrible and small. I mean, unless you're doing nature or whatever.
Right.
It's basically a wide angle lens.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And with that being said, I mean, that's why I went with the iPhone, because its camera's just slightly, and I mean slightly, better than the latest Android at the time. Now, with that being said, that you can shoot HD video on them and get raw photos and things like that, yes, you can. However, because the aperture, the lens, is so small, you are going to get noise, you are going to get grain if you don't have the right lighting for it.
Amen. Yeah.
So would I say to submit your college work on your iPhone or your Android? Absolutely not. No.
People have done it. It's so crazy. No, I know.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Absolutely. Like, don't do it. Don't do it. Actually, never shoot anything on a phone. And
Unless you're doing a funny, like, Facebook video or YouTube video. I mean,
Well-
yeah, okay, fine.
well, yeah, like so here's what I'll say. Like, never shoot anything on a phone. And now if that makes you mad and you're like, you don't know what you're talking about. Okay, fine. You're allowed to because you know how to do it. My point is that there's like a lot of things that you just have to like you got to know how to set the settings just right. You know, things like that in order to really get it to work. I was doing a doc a few months ago where we were using a camera rig for the majority of the footage, but then we were also grabbing our cell phones when there was moments of like, oh, get that, like get a shot of this. It's a road movie, and we can't have the camera out 24/7. We just couldn't, and so we found that we went into our phone settings, simple things, but it made a world of difference. We were able to set all the cameras to the same shutter speed, and try to have some control over the gain and all that stuff, and just little things, but the shutter speed for sure, that was a big one. It may not look as clear and all that, but there are certain things that you can do to make it acceptable.
Oh, definitely. And it does get back to lighting.
Yeah.
For me anyway.
No, I agree.
Now I've done, I've been to multiple concerts and things like that, and they don't usually allow big cameras in there because you're not the paying photographer to get in the photographer bar up there, blah, 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 blah. And I've gotten some good shots on my phone. However, it's about getting the right moment and the right lighting. That is 90% of what you're doing.
Absolutely. I've done band photography before. And, when you're working under colored gels and all of that stuff, and you're taking burst photographs of, somebody on stage singing, the majority of the photos are going to be, their mouth is open or weird or their eyes are closed or whatever. And it's like you're just trying to like get that perfect photo, and then you finally get it, and then their face is green because the gel light was on, things like that.
Exactly.
And that's why a lot of band photographs are in black and white. Because
Very true.
right, when you have these weird sort of like lighting quirks, actually if you just pop it into black and white, some people think, oh, why is everybody doing black and white all the time? Like, they think it's so artsy. Well, I think that it can be artistic. That's a different conversation. Why are they trying to be so artsy? It's like, no, actually, we're just doing it to kind of save our butts because the lighting was crazy. And this is the only way that this photo is going to work.
But, with that being said, black and white photography, it is an art.
Absolutely.
Because in black and white photography, the lighting even has to be better than what you're doing in color. I've done some black and white stuff, some sepia stuff. And yeah, the light has to be, 10% more or better than what you had it at color to get all those lines and things to pop. And to go back to, when they shot pure black and white and didn't have sound or worried about any of that, their emphasis was on lighting and was on their cameras and was on the expression of what they're doing. And honestly, I think if we would have kept going that direction of black and white, and not necessarily gone into, sound and music and things like that, even though that can invoke emotion and carry the story along, honestly, I think our movies would be a lot more noir and a lot more artistic than where they're at now.
Okay.
And that's my 2 cents on it. But I'm more partial to black and white photography.
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely like a tonal difference. You know what I mean? Like the RGB does not speak as individual voices. You know what I mean? Like it's the level of brightness or darkness on that color. It's going to look like the same shade of gray. You can't, our red, green, or blue isn't going to be like a little bit darker, a little bit lighter. And that could be really interesting too for set designing, right? Like remember talking to Brent about this, and he was just kind of teaching us about how when you're shooting if you're going to shoot for black and white, you want to actually be very conscientious about what clothes your actors are wearing, what colors are the walls, because if you mess it up, if you don't do this right, you're just going to end up with kind of a gray mess.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
You want to have that contrast. So
definitely.
Yep.
And for those of you who don't know, Brent Nottbaum is the video professor here at UWS. I took many classes with Brent, and we argued the whole way of me out the door because I take an extremely artistic approach to things. I always have. I probably always will. And I'm a little bit of a punk. So that should explain a lot in itself.
that's a nightmare for any academic person.
Oh, yes.
And I know that. I know Brent has that edgy side to him as well.
He does.
But he's just trying to run a class.
I know. Oh,
you
man.
come in, you're like, the system and all this stuff, and nothing really matters, and it's like, how do I grade that? You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
right. Exactly.
So I get it.
I was a little bit of a thorn in his side. Brent, I do apologize for that. You taught me many, many things. And thank you for putting up with me and passing me, actually. So I feel he understood that I got what he was teaching. But I am so in my own world when I get artsy like that it's just kind of like, well, this is what I'm trying to portray. And, at the time, I didn't want to portray things with words or dialogue. I absolutely bombed script writing class. I can't do it to save my life. I think of quick little ditties, maybe 30 seconds, maybe a minute, 2 minutes tops, and then I move on to the next thing. Now, when you and I went to school, that wasn't really how it was. YouTube hadn't, come around to those quick ditties that we have now.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah. And
right?
Now you have to say things in 15 seconds or less.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about a nightmare.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. It's a nightmare. For filmmakers like you and I that are trying to get things to happen. But
yeah. Actually, I do stuff that is kind of in that vein, and a lot of the things that you would try to never do, like never have a jump cut in a movie. Mm-hmm. These are the techniques that are being completely embraced.
Oh, definitely.
And but though here's the way I see it. It's not. I think people that are like, oh, this is challenging our way of doing things, are a little bit off base, because it's not actually challenging you at all. It's something else completely. Like, there was no YouTube 50 years ago. There was no Facebook 50 years ago. This is a completely new thing. And so these really crazy, quick little, all over the place social media videos are simply the way that video production has found a way to fit in to everything else that's happening on these platforms. Because you're never going to go to cinema and start seeing like jump cutty, like dialogue that sounds like it was, like
shot
made
in a
up,
tin can.
made up on the spot.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
right.
It's never gonna happen. There's an art to cinema.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
And there's different standards for social media videos. That's what the way it is. So anyway, I'm kind of digressing, but the point that I wanted to make though is that I think it'd be super cool if there could be a whole new video track. I don't know what's going on here for video and stuff right now. I know things are kind of all over because of whatever, but
yeah,
it'd be really cool.
UWS.
Yeah, well, yeah, it'd be cool to have digital cinema and documentary and commercial. Commercial media, because documentary and narrative are taught differently. Why is commercial being ignored? I think commercial needs to be embraced. And then within commercial, you have commercial for television and you have commercial for social media. Right. I think that would be super dope to have classes like that. And then commercial for social media, super graphic heavy, flashy, whatever, like just something to distract you for 15 seconds.
Well, and it's all about grabbing that attention in the first 5 seconds. It's all about creating that hook, whether it's with a lot of imagery or, something. You got to grab those people they watch your video for at least 10 seconds. This is what I have learned throughout time. Here. Now, Chris, we kind of digressed a little bit, but I think we hit it pretty heavy in the beginning. So you've got your own production studio. You are open to having those conversations. Now, do you do strictly more artist work? Are you open to commercial work, corporate work? Where do you kind of lie with all of that?
I'm open to anything initially.
Okay.
But that being said, every artist or creative is going to have sort of their lane that they want to be in. And so for me, spots for airtime, that's something that I've done a little bit, and I would love to continue doing more of. I think that, with a lot of the local television commercial market, a lot of studios or a lot of the TV stations are actually just kind of doing the videos, I think, like free of charge in a lot of cases. And the reason why is it's just a little perk, a little incentive, for businesses to kind of whatever get a cool deal there, and then they can pay for the airtime. You know what I mean? And that's awesome, and that's great, and I think that it works out for most people. But if there's a company out there that would be interested in hiring somebody to maybe put a little bit more time into a commercial production. You know what I mean? So rather than doing 4 in a day, I could spend like 2-3 days on one promo because it was just more involved. Maybe we had some actors or something like that. I think a lot of people don't necessarily realize that it's an opportunity to have a local commercial at that production value, because we just don't see that around here. And it's not even that it's that hard to do. It's just that people don't realize that it's something that we can do. And all it takes is a passionate filmmaker with the right gear. And that's, and then it's like, pay me, of course, and then let's do it. That's all it takes. And it's like, I'm here. I'm sure there's other people around the area that could actually. I know there's other people around the area that would do the exact same thing.
Right.
Like we're here. It's go time.
All right, excellent. And Chris, when we did work on this commercial project earlier this month, you were extremely professional about it. You wanted to meet everybody and have those conversations, not just about pay, but about what was expected from our end to your end to, what's the time going to take on this. And then the day of shooting, I mean, you and Tom just went with a flow completely, and I kind of just sat back and let you guys do what you do. And it was awesome to see. It was great to see you kind of in your realm and then Tom in his realm. So I hope you guys can work together in the future, and I hope I can work with you in the future.
Same.
In video capacity, photography capacity, however that works. So, all right.
Yeah,
Chris,
that's great.
thank you so much for coming on the show and talking about your company, working with Monahan and the Red Herring, and good luck to you on all those fronts.
Crystal, thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast.
Of course. Chris Linder in the studio with me. This has been another edition of the 9 o'clock Meltdown here on 91.3 KUWS right here in Superior. See you next week.